Story 1. A couple of things about me that made it really difficult to have a food thief. I have a lot of food allergies, so I can't just get lunch at the cafeteria or at a nearby restaurant. I have a new baby whom I'm breastfeeding and for whom I pump when I'm at work. You know how hungry pregnant people are? Well, the caloric requirement for breastfeeding is 100-200 calories higher. I am always hungry. Because I have a new baby, half the time I don't manage to show up at work for lunch. I either run out of time to pack one, or if I do remember, I leave it on the counter. My solution to all of this was to leave lots of non-perishable snacks in my office. And also a lot of candy, because I also have a 3-year-old. And therefore work is the only place I can shovel Skittles into my mouth without a little hand extending into my field of vision and a little voice saying, "Pee-wees." These were snacks that were specifically free of my allergens, some of which were specialty foods because of this. The type of specialty food that just doesn't taste as good as food that contains the allergen and also costs twice as much. Because I'm not getting a lot of sleep right now, I deserve nice things. So, because I'm not getting a lot of sleep right now, when I first came back from maternity leave, assembled my snack hoard, and started having things go missing, I genuinely thought I was just losing my mind. Boxes of candy were running out faster than I thought I was eating them. I'd come in the morning and things wouldn't be where I'd left them. At one point, I brought a bag of chips to work, folded the rim of the bag down so I wasn't plunging my arm elbow deep into a grease pit, and then put a bag clip on it when I went home. When I came in the next morning, the bag was unrolled and reclipped. I went, "Wow, I must be more tired than I thought," rolled the bag back down, and the next morning it was unrolled again. Just little things like that, almost every day, that made me go, "Wow, the post-baby brain is worse than I thought." And then I got the flu. And I was out for a whole week. Left behind at the office was an almost full box of Enjoy Life cookies, which are not enjoyable, but are free of all major allergens, and are also $5 a box for, like, 12 sad little sand pies with some cinnamon on top. I ate one row of these cookies, and then I was out of the office for a week. For 1 week, I was not eating any of my snack hoard. But someone else was. Because I came back to work, opened my box of cookies, and found one. There was one single, solitary cookie left. And, on further examination, the one box of candy that had been opened was nowhere to be found, and on top of that, the thief had done me the courtesy of opening a new box for me. Except that they actually followed the push here to open instructions instead of just ripping one end of the box open like I do, which they should darn well know at this point because by this time they'd been stealing from me for 2 gosh darn months. The combination of these two things, the sheer freaking audacity it takes to open a new box so you can continue stealing from someone, on top of the consumption of almost a whole box of specialty cookies that aren't even good, enraged me enough that, after going to my boss and getting some vague promises about checking if the security cameras in my wing of the building are functional or not what, I went straight to Amazon and ordered myself a nanny cam. Not for my baby, for my snack hoard. Conveniently, it arrived the day before Valentine's Day. I set it up on top of a file cabinet looking down at my desk. On the desk, I laid out a fantastic spread of baked snacks. I got all my thief's favorites, and then I took it one step further. I bought myself a Valentine heart, broke the seal to make it more inviting, and left it out on my desk. The next morning, I came into some very obvious snack carnage. My thief had slowly been getting more brazen again. Who opens a new box of something? And opens it differently than the person they are stealing from? But this was just on another level. Individually wrapped things had been dumped out of their boxes. Bits of packaging had been thrown away. And, yep, they'd eaten some of the Valentine candy. For shame, office thief. Don't you know that's from someone who loves me? I played back the video. All was quiet throughout most of the evening, and I was just watching the shadows lengthen as the sun slowly set through the hallway window. And then, shortly before midnight, the night janitor arrived and went right ahead and took a 12-minute break in my office, sitting in my chair, eating my food. I started taking screenshots. I got him shoveling candy into his mouth with full palm to lips intensity, pouring things out onto the desk to pick his favorite flavors, not even bothering to put them back where he found them. And yes, eating my gosh darn Valentine's candy. Screenshots went directly to my boss in an email. I went directly to my boss's door to hover and grin and ask if he'd read my email. And I got assurances of a strongly worded email to the cleaning company and the barring of this particular employee from our place of business. I was also, tactfully, asked to please take my unauthorized spy camera home, which I did. I thought this was over until the girl who works the concession stand dropped by to thank me. Apparently, the food thief would start his shift just as she was closing down for the night and would try to get free coffee in that creepy guy way. And then one of the reception staff came by with the same sentiments. I'd never met the guy face to face, but apparently, as a woman, it was not a fun experience to have. I'd shown my screenshots to a few coworkers whose eating my food had become office gossip by this point, and word had spread fast. I worked an earlier shift, so I didn't recognize him, but people whose shifts overlapped with his did. I hadn't told my husband about what I'd done because, when I came home raging about the blatant theft that had gone on while I'd had the flu, his only response had been, "You really shouldn't be leaving food at work, then." But when I came home with the nanny cam and explained where and why I'd gotten it, his reaction surprised me. "You know, I think this is the first time I've seen you stand up for yourself. I'm proud of you." You know what? I'm proud of myself too. Story 2. Back in 2018, I had a temporary internship in California at a large tech company, so I took a recommendation from a friend about a room for rent. It would be living with 5 other people, but otherwise, it looked fantastic with spacious common areas, multiple huge TVs, full amenities, community recreation center with pool, short drive times to multiple places of interest, all for $650/month, utilities included. I contacted the landlord, whom I will refer to as Crappy Landlord. He seemed fine on the phone, so I sent him my security deposit to move in a month later. When it came time to move in, I discovered a few caveats that came with this low rent price. The common areas were all dusty, none of the 3 large TVs worked properly. If we wanted access to the recreation center and pool, we'd need to pay the $80/month membership fee, and all of the short drives time estimates were exaggerated unless you were speeding at twice the speed limit. Whatever, it's not the end of the world, especially at the relatively low price. I'll survive. But then it got worse in the coming months. Crappy Landlord decided to charge us an extra $20/month for paper towels and public cleaning supplies. Crappy Landlord only checked the community mailbox once a week when he was in town and refused to trust anybody with the mailbox key. As it starts to roll into the summer, in June, Crappy Landlord decided that air conditioning cost too much and we were using too much, so he removed the thermostat from the wall. Okay. One day, some of us tenants confronted him when he was at the house since Crappy Landlord also slept at the house about less than 1 day a week, and I'll never forget his words as he rushed out of the house. "It's legal for me to do it, and I don't care since I don't have to live here." Well, sir, darn you. I'm tilted as heck at this guy's obvious money grab from 6 tenants. Well, it turns out he's right. He legally doesn't need to provide air conditioning. So, the next day I purchase a high but freestanding portable air conditioner that exhausts out the window. Holy cow, this thing was luxury. Of course, I pumped my room to 65° F, the lowest setting. We have a couple of other minor disagreements that wind up with Crappy Landlord texting me that it's fine if I wanted to break my lease and move out early. Perfect. When Crappy Landlord finally gets a whiff of my air conditioning setup, he comes to my room to complain about my air conditioning unit. I reply curtly, "It's legal for me to do it, and I don't care since I don't have to pay for electricity." He leaves and later sends me a text. Yeah, okay. Unbeknownst to Crappy Landlord, I'm taking his move-out offer seriously, and this whole time, I've been rallying the troops. All the tenants have been upset about everyone's living situation, so with some minor encouragement, I managed to convince 2 of the other 6 tenants to move out at the same time as me. They were on a month-to-month arrangement. I finally submitted all our notices of intent to vacate at the same time, barely a week after my previous conversation with Crappy Landlord. He's angry. He was just trying to get me out of the house, but now he has 3 rooms to fill instead of just 1. I ask about my legally mandated pre-move-out inspection. In no uncertain terms, he told me to go screw myself. He said he's too busy to perform an inspection. Well, that's illegal, but okay. Time comes to move out. I found another room for rent much closer to the office for only $100/month more. We all move out and I text crappy landlord about my security deposit. No response. I text again. No response. Okay, I see where this is going. I spend days and days reading the law, compiling evidence screenshots, and listing the laws that were broken. The smoking gun was the statute that requires a pre-move-out inspection and a list of things to fix, an itemized list of deductions within 21 days, or else crappy landlord loses the right to withhold any of my deposit. In addition, he would be subject to treble damages if he's found to be acting in bad faith. I text again and again. I give him plenty of leniency and I even cite the laws so I can prove in court that I'm acting in good faith and crappy landlord intentionally ignored the laws that I made him aware about. Crappy landlord probably thinks I'm a young pushover college student who won't follow through with legal threats. Well, sir, we're gonna court because I'm petty as heck when it comes to people trying to screw me over. I file in small claims for $650 plus treble damages, plus court costs. Crappy landlord files a counterclaim of $2,000 for damages to the property claiming I caused flooding, and I broke the microwave. Okay, buddy. In response, I gather testimonies from 3 of the other tenants and I build my case into a 40-page packet of evidence, complete with page numbers, a table of contents, and descriptions for every screenshot and photo. I make 3 copies of everything and submit it to the court and the defendant crappy landlord. The court date is set for November, and I leave the state just before Christmas, so just in time to appear in person since my internship ends, and I fly home in December. He starts filing requests to postpone the trial. He cites a doctor's appointment, and the motion is granted. Court date is rescheduled for a month later, in December, but still before I fly home. New court date approaches, and he files another request to postpone, citing another doctor's appointment. Somehow that motion is granted as well, and we're rescheduled yet again to January. Darn. January rolls around and surprise, surprise. Guess who's got another doctor's appointment conveniently on the same exact day of the trial? Denied. The court finally got off his nonsense and denied the motion because he can't prove he scheduled the doctor's appointment prior to the court date being moved. Welp. I'm not in California anymore. I'm across the country on the East Coast. Crappy landlord thinks if I'm no longer in the state, he'll automatically win since I'm not willing to fly back to California. Well, unbeknownst to crappy landlord, California courts offer an option to appear by telephone. Haha. Court day comes and I get the call. I'm sworn in and then connected to the court. I'm given time to present my case. Unfortunately, I didn't prepare a script, so I kinda summarize the events and explain why I deserve money. Then crappy landlord gets time to defend himself and explain his counterclaim. He doesn't prepare anything either, and he ends up rambling about random stuff that doesn't help his case at all. For example, he spends a lot of time explaining how another one of the tenants was crappy, and so his behavior was justified. He doesn't even have a sliver of evidence for his counterclaim when the judge asks for it. The judge asks a few more questions and announces that he'll review the evidence and will get the decision in the mail. A couple of weeks later, I get the judgment saying I'm owed $650. Crappy landlord gets nothing. Well darn, no treble damages for me. However, it's just my luck the crappy landlord is a piece of work that won't accept defeat. He files an appeal for who knows what. It's granted. Redo trial is scheduled for May. This time I'm 10 times more prepared. Once again, I'm sworn in and then they connect me to the courtroom speaker. This time I have a hashed-out script that I read, making sure to emphasize how often I informed crappy landlord of the law, how often crappy landlord knowingly broke the law, and how I offered so much leniency and so many opportunities to do the right thing. Once again, crappy landlord doesn't prepare anything, but instead rambles on so much that even the judge tells him to get back on track multiple times. Crappy landlord claims I caused water damage and had to replace all the carpets. The judge asks for an invoice or receipt. He has none. Crappy landlord claims I broke the microwave, so the judge reads him the 3 witness statements that state I didn't break the microwave. Crappy landlord says they're all lying. He still has no evidence whatsoever. At this point, the judge clearly sounds done with his nonsense and says we'll get his decision in the mail, and the call ends. A couple of weeks later, I get the judgment. I'm owed $1,800 and crappy landlord still gets nothing. Well darn, would you look at that? His appeal did not quite work out for him. He goes from owing $650 to owing me $1,800. Being the difficult person that he is, he files for a mistrial, claiming I was not sworn in and that I lied in my testimony. Denied. Outside of court, crappy landlord offers a payment plan of $20/month, which will take 7.5 years to pay back, or otherwise he refuses to pay up. Okay, I see how collecting my money is going to be. I figure out the banks at Bank of America by looking up the checks I gave him for rent and seeing where they got cashed. I file for a writ of execution that will allow me to perform a bank levy. It's granted, so I prepared a packet for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to go to Bank of America and take his money. Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department serves him with papers and orders Bank of America to freeze his account. After his allotted time 30 days to contest the seizure, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department seizes his money, plus 10% annual percentage yield interest, plus sheriff fees. I finally got the glorious check in the mail 20 months after moving out. I'll probably frame it. Total, winning $893.91.